This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, it is. Okay, so greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Brother John. I am the president for UNIA-ACL Division 421 in Atlanta. Tonight is October 25th, 2022. And we'll be continuing our officers training. We're reading from Message to the People, course of African philosophy. And we've opened this course to all officers in the UNIA-ACL. First thing we do as we start all of our meetings is an official opening that we like to use at Division 421 is the pledge to the UNIA flag. So if you would, please, for those that can't raise your feet, put your black fist in the air, repeat after me. I commit my body, mind, and spirit.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security.
To the protection, defense, and security
of the red, the black, and the green.
Of the red, the black, and the green.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa.
And the liberation of her scattered black children.
And the liberation of scattered black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants.
I accept for myself and my descendants
the teachings of universal African nationalism.
Teachings of universal African nationalism.
And I promise that our children will be instilled.
And I promise that our children will be instilled
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
With the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
In order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail.
In order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail.
Until all Black people are free and united.
Until all Black people are free and united.
Through one God.
Through one God.
One aim.
One
destiny.
One destiny.
He's first. As the if you could mute your lines until I'm about to open it up for questions in a second. Last week we read lesson 3. Last week was session 4. We read lesson 3, the aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL. So we'll start out today's meeting. We'll go over some questions from lesson 3, and then we will read lesson 4 titled Elocution. So first question, we'll go through, I want to go through the aims and objectives of the UNIA. First, just list what the aim is, and we'll come back and once we got all 11, we'll add some context to each one. So aims and objectives of the UNIA, and try, if you can, try to do it without the book. But if you need the book, of course, it's there. What's the first aim of the UNIA?
To set up a confraternity.
To set up a confraternity. Anybody else want to add on that? All right.
Confraternity. I don't know the whole how it's confraternity.
Yeah, you would 98% with the confraternity. Right. Universal confraternity was the only other thing.
Okay.
So we'll come back to talk about what that is, what that means. But number 1 is universal confraternity. What's the second aim and objective of the UNIA-ACL? We're not studying? Come on, y'all.
To prompt the spirit of pride and love.
Pride and love. Yes, spirit of pride and love is number 2. The third aim and objective of the UNIA. We are the leaders. We should know this. Number 3. Nobody?
To reclaim the fallen.
Reclaim the fallen. Absolutely, Secretary General. We got to commit these to memory I would recommend, but I still need to learn the preamble as well. Is also something that Garvey recommends. Well, he never recommend 11 aims and objectives. That's something I said, but preamble is something that we should commit to memory, the preamble of the Constitution. What is the fourth aim and objective?
Assist the needy.
Assist the needy. Yes, sir. Assist the needy. Number 5, what's the fifth aim?
Civilize the tribes of Africa.
Civilize.
That's the one that was changed in the Constitution, right? Was that it?
We just took out the word
backwards and now. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Help the tribes of Africa.
Okay.
Number 6.
To build an independent nation in Africa.
Close. Nations.
Nations and communities
What kind of nations and communities?
in the development of independent Negro nations.
Independent Negro nations and communities. Yes. Yeah. All right. We'll come back to, put meat on these. Number 7. What's the 7th aim and objective of the UNIA?
I just remember agencies. I don't know. It's some agencies.
What's the purpose of it though? It's gotta.
Come on.
That's more. We should have ambassadors everywhere to be able to serve Negroes if they need help.
Absolutely. Ambassadors for the representation and protection and all of the communities where our people are. What is number 8, the 8th aim and objective?
Conscientious.
Spiritual worship.
Absolutely. That's how you work together. Beautiful, beautiful. Number 9.
That's like education, right?
Oh, that's universities.
Yes.
Universities,
I was about to say, if y'all would have took too long on this, I would have been very upset.
That was one of the tests, number 9 or something. Universities.
That's exactly. This is the aim that we're trying to, not fulfill, but continue with this course and with the orientations that we do. So schools and education. What's number 10?
Establish worldwide business.
Absolutely. Minister of Labor and Industries. Yes, sir. Global economy is the way I. Anybody know what the 11th aim and objective is?
That is, I should know this.
It's my favorite.
Work conditions. No, work conditions. Better conditions. Better conditions in communities. Something like that.
Everywhere.
Anybody want to help them?
That's all I can remember.
Work for better conditions in all Negro communities.
Yeah. It's like everything, better conditions. But the way I remember this one is no stone left unturned. There's always work to be done in this endeavor. So I like 11 because for me, it's anything that's not listed specifically in 1 through 10 is captured in 11. So any questions, comments on the aims and objectives overall before we go through? Okay. What's a universal confraternity? What does that mean?
I look at it as just connecting the black dots all over the globe.
Connecting the black dots all over the globe.
Wherever you are. All right.
Yes. Yes. So confraternity, I've looked it up. I believe that it's defined as a collective or brotherhood. Confraternity is like a fraternity and sorority. So it's not male or female, but it's both. So in regards to organizing our people all over the world, I think this is what this aim and objective is talking about, is bringing everybody under the confraternity of the UNIA-ACL, or within. Questions, comments on number one? Number two, spirit of pride and love. What does that mean? How do we do that? How does Garvey elaborate on that? Or how should we elaborate on it?
You have to do a lot with race pride, believing in your black skin as being special, equal. God created us a black man, an image of himself. Then if God must be in some sense be black himself as well.
Yes, sir.
So just loving yourself,
Yes.
and always speaking highly of your race in all areas.
Yes, absolutely, Brother Macias. God made us this way. God made us perfect the way we are. And as such, we have a responsibility to love ourselves and to love others that look like us, love our people. So as you said, when it comes to marriage and family, our first option should be our own people. But not only do we have to know that and internalize that, and practice that, but we got to promote that same attitude. So, but not only I also in here I put the red, black, and green flag when we do parades, demonstrations throughout the city or throughout the nation. Juneteenth, promoting our people to be proud of their African heritage. That's another, part of this, in my understanding. So, questions, comments on the spirit of pride and love. Okay, reclaim the fallen.
I want to just add that.
Yes.
I like never be unkind to your race. Never curse your race.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And if somebody's doing something wrong, give him or her a chance to correct it.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, we got to be forgiving with our brothers and sisters as well, and patient. As Garvey.
Does that include Kanye?
I'm not gonna say nothing. But yes, at the end of the day,
Yes.
At the end of the day, yeah.
We gotta allow them to come home.
Unless people are blatantly treasonous to the race. I think there's a difference between being ignorant or being misled and being malicious. So I haven't heard anything thus far that's been just but speaking of, but Garvey does say, it's a lot of people that we will probably have to throw away in regards to rich blacks marrying outside of that race.
Oh yeah, you got it. There you go.
That's something that we can't forgive. So in that aspect, yeah.
We got them. We got them.
Reclaim the fallen, though. What is that? How do we do
fallen? Remember falling down. Lift a member your race up when he's down.
Yes.
Kanye.
That's Kanye, right?
Brother John.
Yes, Chaplain Mitchell.
Minus the wife, but that's Kanye.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Something.
I feel bad for Kanye West. I really do, but he was right in speaking out. But this is what happens. When you depend upon another race
There you go.
for financial ability. This is what happens. This is what happens.
Yes, sir.
It's exactly what happens.
Yeah. But look, we're not going. There's not a Kanye meeting. I understand the example. But seriously, reclaim the fallen is something that's important, especially in this time. But what did we say reclaim the fallen was? Just helping those in need.
Yes, and lift a member of your race up when he's down. Fuck. I think something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't have my books upstairs, but for me personally, I put 3 and 4 kind of together: reclaim the fallen, assist the needy, and I consider, that's our charitable endeavors. So homeless, prisoner reform, employment, drug rehabilitation. We've thrown sexual confusion in there as well, but those can be, depending on how you look at it, it can be reclaiming the fallen or assisting the needy. But those are my thoughts on aims 3 and 4. And I know that Garvey says assisting the needy is, in the text, he says like this is supposed to be one of our highest endeavors, or one of the things that we're most proud to do is helping a member that's in genuine need. So anything on anybody want to comment on aims 3 and 4?
I think when it comes to 3 and 4, President John, I think we have to always give encouragement, and we should never be discouraged when it comes to helping out our race. We should definitely be patient and be willing to always assist.
Yes, sir.
Always be assistant.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have the tough job as members of the UNIA, but even if we know how malicious some of our people can be, we have the job of being patient, kind, and forgiving. Not stupid, but we have to be forgiving with our people. So, okay, if there's nothing else on those two, anything? Oh, okay. Let me go to number 5. Civilize the tribes of Africa. What does that mean, and why should we do it?
That was something about taking care of people in Africa. So get when they're in need. So when we get our sovereign land, they'll be ready. I don't know how he worded it. I think I'm right.
The way I look at it is that at the time this was written and taught by the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, there were only 2 independent African countries. And so, I mean, other independence movements didn't come to fruition until 1957. So I think that was kind of first and foremost in terms of the approach. But now I think we should be looking at it more toward the sovereignty issue. Are we truly sovereign countries? Or are we still suffering under neo-colonialism and everybody else pretty much taking huge chunks out of the continent for their own benefit?
Why are we fighting so much and so hard for Africa?
Because that should be our base. That is where more of us are. That is where the raw resources, as well as the people resources.
Yes. Yeah.
We're looking at a continent with really young people. I mean, that's where the future is.
Yes. But yes, that is our, that's as President Clyde said, that's where the majority of our people are. That is the motherland. I believe in the text, Garvey says, the land of our vine and fig tree. So, when we look at our roots and ancestors, that's our home. So when we talk about the diaspora, that's our brothers and sisters that left the motherland and were spread throughout the world from the motherland. But Garvey tells, the way I read it, Garveyism, he talks about other nations are respected because they have, well, other citizens of other nations are respected when they go to other countries because their home nation is strong. You know, so if we want Africans throughout the world to be respected, then Africa, the motherland, must be strong. So, anybody questions, comments on objective number 5?
Yeah, President John, I am disturbed by the word civilize. Know that we had a discussion about that. It sort of implies that African people are primitive in their societal makeup, which is not necessarily true. Because I have Native American roots too. That's not necessarily the case.
Excellent point, Chaplain Mitchell. And this is something that we've discussed on the parent body level, and we can make a resolution to have this updated in the Constitution. So previously, it used to say, and I got to double check. I don't even know if it. Secretary General, you can help me if it. I don't know if we still have civilized, but it used to say civilized the backwards tribes of Africa, and now we just have. Yeah, it doesn't even say civilized anymore. It just says to assist in the development of, and yeah, it skips over. It used to say to assist in civilizing the backwards tribes of Africa, but that whole line has been taken out. So, okay, so that's not even I don't think that's an issue anymore.
Okay.
But in the text, when Garvey wrote it and when Charles L. James took the lessons, I believe it still had the word civilize in there. So for sake of preservation, I left the word, but that's what the parentheses help is for. Any other questions, comments on that? Great observation. Yep, yeah, we did. Yeah, we updated the aims, objects and aims. That's good. Number 6, independent Negro nations. What does that mean? How do we do that? And what does that mean? And we can even put it in Garvey's time or in modern time. Y'all there?
What was that aim again, Brother John?
Number 6, development of independent Negro nations. Why is that important? How do we do that?
I just remember something about segregate, be our own nation. I could be way wrong now. I shouldn't have said anything.
No,
I think I'm around it.
I think you're right. Go ahead. Somebody has something.
I was just gonna say that we need to develop where we are to control every section of our community or our county or what state, our area. So we need to control where we are.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I don't have, like I said, I don't have my text, but I do know the way I remember this one, and I don't even know if it's directly in Message to the People, but somewhere I read the goal for the UNIA is not to have not just Black nationhood, not just to have a strong Black nation, but to combine the strong Black nations into a great racial empire. Yeah, as the text, and then going back to the text, it talked about controlling your communities, segregating your population such that you can control every aspect of the community. But any questions on this? Number 6. Okay. Objective number 7. How do we explain that one? or what does that mean to us?
And ambassadors would imply being representatives for African people in your jurisdiction.
Yes, sir.
So you're being an advocate, you're being a communicator. So in my instance, I would represent African people throughout the Fairfax County area.
Yes, sir.
So I would be an ambassador for the UNIA-ACL.
Yes, sir. Anybody want to add?
I'd just like to add to that you'd want locals to be able to come to what could be considered a consulate or someone that would represent an authority that could represent them wherever we are around the globe.
Yes, sir.
If you got representatives in the principal cities around the globe, then you can do that. Otherwise, they're just out there easy for the picking.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I believe the couple words used in this one was representation as well as protection. If something's going on here in Atlanta, we need to have a representative that can communicate that to the parent body, like, hey, they doing voter suppression down here. Or, hey, they got the KKK is running through the streets out here. So it allows that representation and protection, but I think also internally, when it comes to us being represented in our city councils or district gatherings, we should have representatives of the UNIA at these meetings be able to share the sentiment of the people in that jurisdiction. So this is a very important. Well, they're all important, but I like number 7. Division presidents should be very familiar with this role of communicating and representing what's going on when we do our monthly reports of what's going on in our city or what we got planned. That's a part of us fulfilling this role of objective number 7. So, any questions, comments, anything anybody want to add to that?
Oh yeah, Brother John, wouldn't that also include liaisons with other organizations?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think that goes back to number 6. In Garvey's time, there weren't as many organizations, I don't think, that we have now. And I think when he was talking about Negro nations, it was actual nations, as Brother Clyde said, the nations in Africa, nations in the Caribbean, things like that. But I expand that in modern time to be, Nation of Islam, Moorish Science Temple, New Era Nation or whatever, even if, but all these groups, BLM, ADOS, FBA, we still have to communicate and have relationships with these groups. So yes, Brother Art, you are correct. And we have to bring these groups under one banner. Our goal is total organization of our people under one banner, the UNIA. So whatever means we have to take to do that, we should be at least discussing that. All right. Yes, thank you, Brother Art. Number 8 is 8:40, so we got to get moving. Number 8, conscientious spiritual worship. What does that mean? What does that mean? Why is that important?
One God.
Absolutely.
Everybody, one agenda, one God.
Absolutely. Anybody else? We're still gonna have an issue even in monotheism with the Abrahamic religions of Islam, Judaism, Christianity. They all believe in one God, even if they may give them different names. But within the UNIA, I think we are confined to that ideology of monotheism. When we get into polytheism, you got gods arguing with each other, you know. So I think Garvey and our ancestors conceded, you know, to the fact of trying to organize a polytheistic religion. Like if your God's not even on the same page, how you gonna get the people on the same page? So within the monotheistic religions, you know, Garvey didn't necessarily lay out the plan of how to do it, but we have to work with these three religions to somehow get on one accord for the benefit of our people globally. But I think also here he was, I don't know, I don't want to go into that. I know he said something about Africa. I know, you know, he talked about Africa, but, you know, I think President Everett said it best, one God, you know, that's our motto. So we're not polytheists, but
Yeah,
we, you know, we just have to work with these religions. Go ahead, Chaplain Mitchell.
yeah. I had a question. I remember reading something. What was Marcus Garvey's view on atheism? I remember reading something of Marcus Garvey where he sort of discouraged atheism. And he said if there was an atheist among you, to not listen to them. I mean, I don't know if that's still applicable to today's time. I know we're all about unifying our people, and in my field of work, I work with all kinds of people. I wouldn't turn a brother down because he's an actual atheist. So how do we deal with that?
That's a great question. How do we deal with that? I can only answer, I don't know how I can't answer for the entire organization, but I can speak for Atlanta. If it's, I would want to say, like, if it's not a point of contention, if it's something that they keep to themselves, then we can work with them. But if it's something that an ideology that they try to promote to everyone else, we'd have an issue. So that would be the best answer that I can give for us locally.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else want to speak on?
I can speak.
Yes.
I can speak for Chicago because I'm atheist, and we pretty much leave everybody's religious beliefs to themselves as their personal beliefs. So we respect each other's personal beliefs, but that is your personal belief, you know, and you get to work with that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yep.
One of the things President Monroe from Chicago says all the time is unity doesn't mean you agree upon everything. Unity means you agree upon the things that you need to agree upon, and you don't argue about the things that you don't need to agree upon.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, brother. My atheist brother. I don't want to turn anyone down. That's why I was asking that actual question.
I could bring in I ain't even gonna do that. All right. Anybody else on conscious spiritual worship?
In my opinion, race first is the conscious of spiritual worship, and we lean towards race first and stick to that, you know, and worship our black skin. That's good enough.
I respect that. Anybody else? All right, let me get moving. I think we'll be all right on time, I hope. Schools and education, how do we do that? Why is it important?
Education leads to self-reliance, and we don't know how to take care of ourselves and have the knowledge to be able to create industries and get through life. We won't be able to be self-reliant.
I'm with you. It's something specific I'm looking for though in regards to.
Is it I'm sorry, Brother John, to cut you off. I
No,
think
go
it was Brother Macy's was right, but I think the part you may be looking for is our own culture, maybe.
Yes, sir.
School with own. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Right. Yep.
That's because I was getting ready to ask, like, what if if that's the case, what's wrong with the education that we're getting now? From public schools and from these institutions that are out there now.
That's number 9, right? That was number 9?
We're talking about number 9, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I remember that one always because I put that to the course of African philosophy, the course we studying now. And that's how I kind of remember it because, it's catered to our leaders. But that's just how I remember it. I don't know.
Again, why is this, what's supposed to be so important about us going through this course?
So we can teach and lead our other UNIA members.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to you.
Wait.
Go ahead.
We want to have our own system of education, and I think that's an important part.
Yes.
Kind of like the President General and the First Assistant have spoken on it with what they're doing with the school over in Liberia and Brother Raymond's attempts to write books. We have to have education approach from our point of view.
Yes.
And it has to be an education that puts us in the best light.
Yes.
And in the correct light. So
but yes, we're supposed to, any education that we get from a white institution, we're supposed to counter with one of our institutions. But we're supposed to, and this course is supposed to help instill a fierce Afrocentric perspective. Everything that we've learned thus far has been pretty much Eurocentric. We can call it American, but America is just a child of Europe. So we have to combat that education with a race first, African pride centered education.
President John, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So this is where it gets challenging. Let's say if you work in a public educational system,
Mm-hmm.
where of course you're dealing with multiple races, multi cultures. How do we establish our own public educational system, and I guess still be able to build our own funding? I guess saying essentially, how do we remain self-sufficient and then have our own public educational institutions without being flagged as being separatist?
It's a good question. So first, when you said public, that kind of makes things very difficult, and I wouldn't even try to approach it from a public, government approved curriculum type standpoint. It would have to be a private school.
Okay.
Well, that's what I would see as a private school setting, and Garvey talks about this later in the course, but there's a diplomatic approach to education, and some of this stuff, some of these things can't be taught during school hours. They'll have to be taught after school. But the example that Garvey gave in the text was Jewish people, and he said how Jews would go to normal school during the day, but they would have a Jewish school either after school or during the weekend. So they would get double education. They would understand everything that we knew, but they would also have another class, another school to where they would do things that we didn't know about. So at this point, and this is what we're doing now, we have to, well, I'm not gonna say we have to, but we choose to leave the public school system where it is, try to develop our private schools on the side. But in the meantime, during our free time, we must come together in settings like this, and sacrifice our time, after school or on the weekends to get this type of education. But as far as a public school, government approved, I don't see that happening.
So, and then my other question, President John, how do you see HBCUs fitting under this module?
That's a tough question. How do I see HBCUs? You said fitting under this module?
Yeah. How do they fit under this? Because it can be dicey and it can be challenging. I know that it's a challenging question because I've been asking myself the question: how do we then bring this into HBCUs?
The best thing that comes to my mind is, and this fits right into UNIA, a fraternity or sorority. In those groups, we are in America, now north or south, whatever, and that's what our education is focused on. However, Greek fraternities, I don't really know exactly what they, do, but I'm sure it's stuff that goes outside of just the normal everyday American curriculum. So that would be the vision that I have is fraternities, sororities, or just a college confraternity that's, male and female, that discusses these things during private meetings.
Makes sense.
Anybody else on schools and education? We almost do this. Global economy. What does that? Oh, yeah, global economy. What does that mean? Why is it important?
That would mean that we need to engage in business around the globe to, one, employ our own selves, and then two, to provide those goods and services that we all use.
Yes.
So that we'd be self-sufficient from that perspective.
That's self-sufficient. That's why I was
free to generate the funds to make it sustainable.
Yes, self-sustaining, self-reliance. When you look at and for Africa specifically, when you look at the resources that Africa provides to the world, to my knowledge, there's nothing, well, not nothing, but there's very little that Africa needs outside of their own borders. And when you expand that to the diaspora, if we worked with, help, to not civilize, but help develop the business in Africa, help to develop the business throughout the diaspora, we as Africans should have, the world's strongest economy. And within our own economy, we should have everything that we need to such that we don't need to purchase or work with other races and nations. So global economy. Any questions on that?
Yeah, President John. So about global economy, I know that it's possible for us as African people to do anything, but how do we then formulate a global economy without Euro-centralized interference, without them wanting a percentage of what we have? Because the European always wants a percentage of what we have. So how do we then formulate a global economy without European interference? Do we form our own military to keep them away? How do we do that effectively?
Eventually, yes. But the first part is just us agreeing to do business with each other. So even outside of an international trade, if we look at it internally, if Brother Omasius, is growing watermelons and I produced socks or undergarments. What's preventing him and I from doing business together and working together? There's no, it's not going to start a world war if him and I agree to do business together. So
Okay.
I would say, we have to first have those agreements to work together, and, that philosophy of race first, and, doing business with our people before we go outside and do business with other races and nations. I think that's where we have the bigger issue, is we're so willing to go outside of our race, but we have to change that mindset.
Makes sense.
Any questions, comments on global economy?
I would just say that that commitment that to do business together and studying the global economy that's in place, called a uniform commercial code, which basically the details on how they're going to do business together.
Yeah.
So as we create those contracts on how we're doing business together, that could be step two.
Yeah, we got an African uniform commercial code, but that's the idea, is understand how the world works, understand how the other races have been successful, and create those systems for ourselves. Brother Art.
And yeah, I think we're gonna have to build a African United Nations to protect ourselves.
Well, they got the African Union. That's supposed to represent the same thing, but yeah, they need some help as well, and they need some philosophical help.
Yeah, but under these new agreements, wouldn't those things have to be reformulated or re-looked at?
I don't really understand where you're going. What are you talking about?
I mean, like, if the nations are gonna agree to work together, then there would have to be new agreements for protection, wouldn't it? I mean,
yes, eventually, but like I said, the first step is making those agreements to work together, globally.
yeah, okay, all right.
And we as UNIA, we need to grow and become strong enough so that we can approach the African Union as a collective body.
Okay.
Somebody had a comment?
No, I said I agree with you, Brother John. We gotta grow really strong in order to approach the Pan-African Union.
Yes. Okay. All right. We got a couple more questions before we get to the reading. This was just the aims and objectives. As the people that were here last week know, lesson 3 kind of went into some other aspects. Specifically, I remember Black nationality, Black nationhood, but we need to run through these quickly. Got 8 more questions. Where should the funds of the UNIA be directed, and who owns these funds? Who owns the funds of the UNIA?
The people own them, of the members, and to be directed towards the needs of the members.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, Brother Macias, would you repeat that?
I said the members of the UNIA owns the funds, and the funds should be directed towards the needs of the members.
I think it's the race.
No, it's broader
race.
than that. It's the people.
Yes.
Oh, it's got to be used for the race.
Right.
So the funds should be directed to help the race, or be used for the race and just for our race.
And who owns the funds?
And they are held in trust. The funds are held in trust for the race.
Yes. Yes. So the text on page 33 says directed in these channels. So these channels would be the 11 aims and objectives. Funds of the UNIA must be used for the race and only the race. But as far as the ownership specifically, you are correct. I thought I had that in here as far as held in trust. It's probably on a later question. Who should own the funds and property of the organization? Yeah, I think that's it right there.
It should be held in trust for the race.
Held in trust for the race. Yes, held in trust for the race for perpetual existence for future generations. Any questions thus far? What must be the culmination of all the efforts of the UNIA? When we say one aim, well, I think this goes into that aim, but
African nationalism.
African nationalism.
Am I right?
Pretty much. I think it's like sovereignty on the nation of Africa. Independent, Negro independent nationalism on the continent of Africa. Everything must contribute to the final objective. So yeah, independent nationalism, continent of Africa. That's on page 33. What is required for a nation to be free, and what is our only protection? I think these may be the same answer, but what is required for a nation to be free? What is our
I was going to say its own government, but that's not what I just gave. I don't think so. I don't know. I'm taking away now.
Brother Everett, I think you're right.
Really? Oh, gee.
I think you're right.
I took a guess on that one. I thought I knew it, and then I'm not too sure. Okay, cool.
I think it's 3 things, right?
What you got, Secretary General?
Well, you just showed us.
I know, but what you think?
I like your answer. Let's go with that.
So what I got on page 34, 35, a strong nation of its own system of government and its own order of society. The only protection is to have your own government. So in order for a nation to be free, they must have their own government and system of government.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. What does it mean when it say its own order of society? What does that mean?
That's a good question.
Oh,
go ahead,
Brother John.
Go ahead, brother.
I'm assuming, I would just give my evaluation. When it says own order society, I think it's like you have your own city, your own rules, your own ways that you govern your people. That's how I was looking at it. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he's trying to say. We need our own laws to govern ourselves, our own police, our own stuff like that. But I don't. That's just my take out of it.
Yeah. For me, it's an expansion of government. So it goes into culture as well as national government, because one good example is, and y'all may have situations like this, but where you have cities that are majority Black or majority Black council, those would be considered cities that were governed by Blacks. Atlanta is a great example. We're governed by Blacks, but these Blacks are still just middle managers. When it comes to the United States Constitution or the Georgia Constitution, that's not something that they created. These aren't cultures and societies that they created. So even though we have individuals in power that may control the government, they still don't control the overall society. Look at Obama when he was president. He was the head of the government, but he still didn't control the overall society.
So it's just got me thinking, is there a possibility of that being in existence at all? Because since we live here in North America, and we have to be under their government, the system of government that exists, as people who live here. Is it going to be possible for the UNIA to have this kind of order of society? We do have a government, yes, we do, but we are limited, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
There's still a government behind enemy lines, so to speak. Go ahead, Sister Brenda.
I think, Sister Marvia, that its own order of society is the relationship between institutions and the government. I think that's more the order of society, how things function with our government and within our government. And I think there have been Black townships and that have set up some of these things, but the problem was, I think they had their own order of society, but they didn't have their own system of government. So they had an order of society within the system of government that already exists, and I think we're taking it to the next level.
Yes, but Sister Marvia, we know the situation that we're working in, and that's why the previous question, the culmination of all of our efforts is independent nationalism on the continent of Africa. In my opinion, we have our hands tied when it comes to trying to be an independent nation here on the land of America. That's it's an uphill battle. We're not supported. I don't think we're wanted in that capacity. So our best chance at making that happen is on the continent of Africa.
President John, can I
it's not only North America. Let me just stress that. I think even Blacks in Europe, they don't have much say in whatever, I think it's the same everywhere we are, whether we are in North America, we're in Europe, or
if we're not in
to say not on our own continent.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, Brother Mason, but yeah, trying to build an African nation in a non-African nation just seems, whether it's Japan, China, India, Europe, America, Mexico, it just does not seem wise to try to build a nation for our people that's not on the continent of Africa. Brother Macy's.
I agree with you, Brother John. I agree with you, but as part of controlling our communities and societies and living in segregated areas, we want to do as much as we can here.
Yes.
But the goal is definitely to build it on the continent.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, brother and sister.
Great question.
Thanks.
Brother Macy's, were you going to say something?
No, we can definitely move on. I'm good.
4 more questions. What should we do while we are under alien governments?
President John, may I say something?
Chaplain Mitchell, go ahead.
Yeah. As being Nakwa American, it's not Native American. We pronounce it Nakwa American. And being an original Black Native American, my ancestors were here before the Europeans arrived. So kind of that saying is that the Europeans that arrive here are not the original inhabitants of our land. You know, this is our land.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, this is not, this doesn't belong to them. So when they say alien government, it's a government that they brought over from Europe. That's it's not even their land. So you know, they needed things. And then there were also Africans that were here before the Europeans ever actually came. So I'm trying to figure out alien. They are using the term alien. They're the ones that are alien. We're not.
Well, thank you, Chaplain Mitchell. In this situation, we're calling them aliens.
Oh, okay. I see.
So
Sorry.
while we are under their governments, what should we do?
Okay.
But great,
Sorry about
great insight.
I think Garvey said while we are under these alien governments to utilize all the rights of being dual citizens. I think that's what he said. Make sure we take advantage of everything.
Take advantage of rights and privileges.
I think, yes.
That sounds right. Anybody want to add?
I think he said, to add on to that, he said that it was something about, and while you're here, continue to uplift your race or something.
I thought it was like follow the laws, but I know it's take advantage. Okay, let's see. Get the best out of them as the rights of citizenship, but always have in view something to make it possible for your race to have a nation or government and a government of its own. So,
okay.
Utilize the rights and privileges that come with citizenship in the alien government, but always have in view a possibility for a race, for your race to have a nation of its own. So. Any questions on that?
President John, I want to make sure that we're reading the same document, that I'm not under some delusion. So we're reading under what should we do while we are under alien governments, right?
Yes.
It says to get the best out of them as the rights of citizenship, but always have in view something to make it possible for your race to have a nation and a government of its own. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, when Marcus Garvey uses the term alien, who is he referring to? What is that, and who is he referring to? Alien.
Example would be American government or European government.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
But any government that's not the UNIA, basically.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions? All right. A couple more questions, and we got a lot of reading to do. Will conditions be better for the Negro race if another race was to gain power globally? So,
nope. If the Japanese get power, we still gonna be in the same situation. I think that's one example you used was the Japanese and some other people.
Yes. All other races and nations will use you just as the same as slaves and underdogs. But yeah, he talked about Japan, China. I don't know if he used India, but that's not the solution. To sit back and wait until another race gains power. That's not
China.
Yeah, China is definitely in our time taking that position, but race first, always. Number 7, what is the highest expression of independence?
Self-governance.
Self-governance. That's what I would think. Self-reliant self-governance.
Yeah.
Highest expression of independence is in the sovereignty of a nation. So, independent nation, based on what we said here, our own government, our own order of society. Last question. What emblem signifies the existence of a nation?
Flag. Constitution.
Flag. So when we see flags and when we see our flag, this is not just decoration, but this is symbolize the existence of a nation, and we should respect it as such, and we should enforce that respect from others. So that's the last question I got on aims and objectives. Any questions, comments before we move to our reading for this evening? Okay. All right, 1 second. Message to the people.
Brother John, what are we on now? Elocution?
Elocution, lesson 4.
That's when he's talking about the boiled eggs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Get your chest right.
Yeah. So, since brother, when it talks about hidden lessons or unwritten lessons, a couple of the things that I've pulled, and you can feel free to take them, use them, throw them away. But number 1 in lesson 1 is being studious, so to speak, but constantly learning, studying, obtaining new information. So that's just something I pulled out. Number 2, second in lesson number 2 is like he talked a lot about hygiene and appearance, but as well as being superior in an aspect of leadership, but being clean and being presentable, I think was, an underlying message in that lesson. Number 3, I don't really got nothing for 3, but number 4, as we read it, pay attention because the title of the lesson is Elocution, but there's hidden, not hidden, but there's there's things about health as well. So that was one of the things, because there is no lesson specifically about health in this text, but Garvey alludes to it in other lessons. So we'll go through elocution and we'll discuss the questions for this next week. Brother Oasis, will you be reading for us?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm ready.
Lesson 4, elocution. Elocution means to speak out. That is to say, if you have a tale to tell, tell it and tell it well. The idea of speaking is to convey information to others. Therefore, you must speak so that they might hear you. You must speak with dignity, elegance, clearness, and distinctiveness. You must speak to be understood in the language you speak. You must carry emphasis when you speak. To be a good elocutionist, you must embody in yourself clearness of thought, expression, and action. First, you must feel what you speak, and as you feel it, express it in like manner. If you feel the enthusiasm of a thing, express it with enthusiasm. Speech and truth should be just your feelings on all things. If you speak coldly or without emphasis, it is because you feel coldly and not moved to action. Every man who is not tongue-tied by nature can speak. God gave him a voice for that purpose. Therefore, if you have anything to say it out loud so that others may hear you. In addressing a crowd of people in a small room, you must raise your voice to reach the persons farthest away from you in the room. If you are addressing 100 people, you should raise your voice loud enough in expressing yourself so that the person sitting farthest away from you will hear every word distinctly and in like manner. If you have an audience of 1,000, 2,000, or 5,000, if you stand up on a platform in front of an audience of 1,000 and address them in the voice you would use for an audience of 12 feet by 12 feet, the people furthest away from you will have to strain their ears to hear and understand you. They will become disgusted and walk out on you. When you have an audience, you must make an effort for everyone in the audience to hear you distinctly. You must pronounce your words correctly for them to understand what you say. You must not run your words into each other. You must make your words clear and distinct. You must not rush your sentences, but speak in short sentences that carry clear thoughts so that everyone will be able to follow and understand what you say. The idea of listening is to hear. When an audience doesn't hear every word of the speaker has failed to make a complete impression upon his audience. Probably the very thought impression probably the very thought he would like to leave is not sufficiently distinct and clear as to be heard. Therefore, the speech is in vain. Always speak in words that your audience understands. Never try to speak above your audience's head because it will be a waste of time. Nobody will understand you. The important thing in speaking is to be understood. First, always think of what you're going to say before you say it. Otherwise, you will be regarded as a fool for talking nonsense. In a speech, when you start a sentence, always complete it. Never speak in long sentences because people cannot remember long sentences. When you are delivering a speech, do so with emotion so that you feel what you are saying. Do not stand in one place like a mummy. People will think you are planted there. But put action behind your feelings and move as your feelings direct. If you are honest in what you are saying, you will feel it and will move you. Always be enthusiastic about your subject. The way to do that is to know it well. Make your hands, feet, and eyes give expression to your thoughts. Never express what is supposed to be an inspirational thought without first giving expression to the thought. You can do that by the movement of your body according to the response of your own enthusiasm. You must hypnotize your audience by expression. Stare into their eyes and firmly express yourself. You must not shiver from their glare. You must make them shiver from yours. In that way, you will subjugate them and make them do what you want. This is made possible by your honesty of purpose and confidence in yourself. If you are telling a lie, you cannot subdue everybody or anybody who is looking straight at you because they will see the lies in your eyes. If you have to tell a lie, don't look at anyone. Your eyes will betray you. Whenever you see a speaker look away from the crowd and to the ceiling or at the walls, he is usually telling a lie. A person who is always facing his audience is never afraid of the truth. Speak forcefully always, particularly at the beginning, middle, and end of your speech. Start off in a low tone, then 5 minutes afterwards, raise your voice gradually until you have reached a convincing point in your speech. Then you may rest by lowering your tone to raise it again to get renewed interest. Continue the same way until you are about to reach the end. Then redouble your efforts to win everybody over to you on what you are speaking about. This is called your climax. Always sit down with emphasis after you have made your speech. Then rise again to do anything else. If you have more to do, don't let the people believe that all your efforts were just to get a collection. If you lift the collection at the same time you make the speech, they will think so. Lift the collection immediately after the speech. If you made a good speech before, up to the end, they will listen to you. Even making a speech about the collection. If the speech was no good, you will have a no good collection. To speak properly, you must have good sound teeth. You must have clear nostrils. Your lungs must be sound. You must have a healthy chest. Your stomach must not be overfull and you must not be hungry. Never try to make a speech on a hungry stomach. You may faint and die before you are finished. If you have a nasal obstruction, go to the doctor and have it corrected. If you are suffering from lung trouble, see the doctor. To be able to make a speech for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, you must treat and train your constitution. Your chest is the most serious part to be affected. If you don't have a strong chest, you will feel exhausted in attempting to make a long speech. To prevent this, eat as many eggs as possible. You should eat eggs at least once a day, not hard, but soft-boiled or raw if you can stand it. This will strengthen your chest, and after a time, it will become so hard that you will speak 5 or 6 hours without feeling it. This must be done regularly. As long as you are going to indulge in public speaking, you must eat eggs. You should always develop the disposition to drink water and sip it at intervals if your throat becomes thirsty and dry. It is the most difficult thing to speak with a dry throat. All the straining you do will be of no effect because your words will be monotonous. There will be no harmony and rhythm. Soften your palate with water and bring back the music to your voice. You must never speak in a monotonous tone. Speaking is really music in another way. You must strike the different notes, play the different notes, and let the people hear the sound and the harmony. This is done by giving each word its proper note, sound, and emphasis. You must strike the right chord. For goodness sake, you always speak out. Always speak loud enough for others to hear you, unless you have something to hide. the desire is to be heard, then let them hear you. Most preachers fail because their congregations do not hear them, especially Anglican preachers. Negro Baptist preachers and AME preachers can raise more money than other preachers because they talk loud enough to be heard and have more emotion in their expression than other preachers. This is a hint. Such preachers are always fat. This is a hint. Such preachers are always fat because they always have responsible congregations due to their ability to reach the congregation and telling them what they want. If you want anything told, tell it and tell it well so that nobody will misunderstand. You must open your mouth and not be afraid of doing so unless you have only gums and are afraid of people seeing the nakedness of your mouth. Always try to avoid a cold because it is ruinous to any speaker. Whenever you catch one and have to speak, go to the drugstore immediately and secure some speakers tablets to clear away the phlegm. It is good to use eucalyptus for inhaling to keep the nostrils clear so that you will have a perfect sound to your words. Don't chew your words. Talk them out plainly. Otherwise, no one will understand what you mean. Practice speaking to yourself in your room, in your hall, drawing in your own hall, drawing room, or any place where you will not be disturbed. Go to the sea, beach, or the woods and talk to yourself or to nature to practice so that you will have command of your expression and you become accustomed to speaking. Never be afraid of your audience. If you know your subject well, you have no cause to be afraid. Always know your subject. Never make a long speech after 10 o'clock at night. People will become restless and move away because it is near bedtime. If you are called upon to speak at 10 o'clock or after, take not more than 15 minutes. If you are to speak somewhere, see to it that you are not called later than 9:30. At a certain hour of the night, people are restless and tired and generally want to go home. They are never inclined to listen to speeches. Never apologize for any other speaker being better than you. Just rise to the occasion and try to beat the last man. Let the audience judge. If you confess that any speaker is better than you are, even though you are better, the audience may still give the credit to the other man because you said so by running down your own ability. Always see that your clothing is properly arranged before you get on a platform. Otherwise, people may see things to laugh at. Be careful not to make blunders in grammar because people may laugh loudly and expose you to others who are not thinking. You should not make any mistakes in pronouncing your words because that also invites amusement for certain people. If they remember nothing else, they may remember such mistakes and ever talk about them and create prejudice against you for it. So be careful. When speaking, you should always try to hold the people's interest in the best way you know. You may give a joke that is relevant or logical in emphasizing your point. Never give vulgar jokes. To be a good speaker or elocutionist is to hold a grand prize among men. If you can speak better than others, you have a natural lead among them. Glory in this and strive after it. Remember, God gave you a mouth and a voice, and you must use them for good results. Secure from any bookseller a copy of a good book on elocution and study
it. Thank you, First Vice President, Brother Macius. It is, well, it's 9:29. Wait, hold on, let me see my screen sharing pause. What's the what's the first thing we should do after our emphatic speech?
Ask for a donation. I remember that from brother. Where did me and your brother Maru HEC? Didn't he say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
When
So
that little kid spoke, he was like, "What should we be doing?" Ask for a
I
donation.
was thinking like say the pledge or something. I don't know. But yes, shameless plug. So if you would like, please donate to our Cash App. And I need to put the right Cash App. This is our old one. UNIA, $UNIA 421 fund. Any donations that you'd like to make to 421, please do so. All right. With that being said, we officially got 5 minutes. I do have a lot that I kind of wanted to discuss, but I did want to first at least open the floor. Questions, comments on what we just read with lesson 4, elocution.
I just want to say, Brother Macy's, I know I told you before, you sound like you be flowing, brother.
Elocution. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. Excellent job. Okay.
Brother Everett, I was thinking the same thing. Brother Macy's, you do a great job of reading that.
Yes, he does.
I would still be on the second page.
I try to tap into Garvey as best I can, like speak to me.
Well, listen, we got a couple minutes. I just want to recap what we should have learned or some things that we should have taken away. I look at this course as a building up, and that's why you see this little bar over here. Hope by the end, we'll fill this out, and we will have completed the course. That don't mean that we've mastered any of the course, but at least we've gone through it and we've done our best to be thorough about understanding the information. So I'm still struggling to figure out which section of this book is most important, because every time I read something, I feel like I'm reading the most important thing. But starting with the foreword. So as soon as you open up the book, foreword written by President General Charles L. James. Course of African Philosophy is for, and it belongs to those in a position of leadership in the UNIA, and is to help in the aim of establishing schools for our re-education. That's from Charles L. James as to what this course is for. Garvey felt that no one should be held responsible for his actions until he or she had been properly educated or trained to carry out those responsibilities. We feel that this course is an important part of that training. So that's part of why this is we hold it in such high regard. Charles L. James was the leader of the first class. He got the highest score, and he was the last survivor of the first class. And that's why this text had been published, so that it can be preserved and for us in this time. Course published by Charles L. James. It was edited by Dr. Tony Martin and authored by Marcus Garvey. So the course came out in 1985, I believe it was published. That's 45 years after Garvey's transition, but Garvey is still the author, and Dr. Tony Martin is the official editor and was a historian of the UNIA. One of the things we must know that Charles L. James, that I pull from Charles L. James, we must be humble and not egotistical. Some of the qualifications of Charles L. James: he's worked in the office of the parent body, traveled with Garvey. He heard the speeches from Garvey. He attended all the conventions, visited Garvey in prison. He was the youngest vice president of New York division with over 40,000 members, commissioner of New Jersey, president of the Gary, Indiana division. And with all of these accolades, Garvey still felt that Charles L. James was not qualified to carry on the work until he went through the course. So all of us, we should do the best that we can. I'm not the final authority or anything, but we should just take as much opportunities as we can to be grasping this information and trying to understand it as best we can. The preface: the Course of African Philosophy is the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote, besides his poetical works. Course of African Philosophy is the last political will and testament of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey's life from August 17th, 1887 to June 10th, 1940. He was in America from 1916 to 1927. This course is a distillation of lifetime organizational experience of Marcus Garvey. So Marcus Garvey, at the age of 50, able to look back at lessons learned and put this course together for us. Garvey said that if he had to do it again, he would have a less trusting, more cautious approach. This text is for a cadre of leaders to carry on the work of the UNIA after Garvey's death. It is to instill a fierce Afrocentric perspective. We call that race, which can be considered race first nowadays, void of anything that will subjugate the mind of the Negro. Karl Marx and communism, he knew very little about Negroes and thought and wrote less about them. Garvey had a duality of attitude in regards to the Jews, how he praised their solidarity and resented their power. This text presents a new tone at the end of Garvey's life in his confidential conclave and his insistent advocacy of discipline. So free to speak his mind. And this is what we have in this text. A leader must master his shortcomings. The race must strive for excellence. Great individuals burn the midnight lamp. So we must be constantly working to develop ourselves to be the best representatives of our race that we possibly can be. Garvey said the majority of Negroes are ignorant, and we as leaders of the UNIA must exercise patience to civilize our people. This course is a college for the purpose of training leaders who are to supervise the work in the different parts of the world. Intelligence rules the world and ignorance carries the burden. Self-interested common sense, which the race seemed to lack. So that came from the book. In regards to the intelligence, it was the self-interested common sense. So just the knowledge of who we were, our abilities, our purpose, our potential. That's what made us ignorant, and that's what allowed others and still allows others to rule over us. I have given them all I know. I am trying to make everyone a Marcus Garvey personified. That's what Garvey said about this text. Give me a few more minutes, if you would. So that is the importance of just the foundation of the course and why we should cherish this work, honor the work, value, the work of the Honorable Charles L. James, as well as Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Dr. Tony Martin. So that's the foundation. Lesson 1, things that we should take away from lesson 1, as I said, constantly being studious. Read, study, write history. Garvey emphasized the importance of history. Read history incessantly until you master it. Primarily a history of man. You can only make the best of life by knowing and understanding it. To know it, you must fall back on the intelligence of others who came before you and who have left their records behind. So that's history. That's the importance of history. Education is the medium by which a people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and glory of their own race. That came from Philosophies and Opinions. From lesson 1, Garvey teaches us to master the languages that we speak, build and protect our private libraries. We should be reading 4 hours a day and reading a chapter of the Bible every day. Lesson 4, got to drink water. Associate with people we can learn from. Garvey says, quote, never go down in intelligence to those who are below you, but if possible, help to lift them up to you and always try to ascend to those above you. So in regards to our relationship, we should be surrounding ourselves with the right people. I'll just put it that way. Study and speak of the greatness of the Negro race throughout history. Oh, why did I spell that terrible? We have to know that our people are the oldest race, and the Negro race having a claim to the cross. Those are things that we got from lesson 1. Lesson 2, to lead suggests that you must have followers for others to follow you. You must be superior to them in the things they must follow you for. A leader must have personality. He must be clean cut in his appearance so as not to be criticized. Leaders must be self-possessed, confident, self-reliant. We must be known in our community and organization. We must emphasize racial unity, race pride, And from Philosophies and Opinions, leadership means everything: pain, blood, death. And then we talked about lesson 3 tonight, aims and objectives, with the one aim, well, partly of the one aim. Culmination of all the efforts of the UNIA must end in independent nationalism on the continent of Africa. So this is the foundation. When I look at this text and I look back, the first 7 lessons are kind of personal development and just making us good individual representations of the UNIA and of our race, so just a foundation in intelligence, leadership, and understanding the principles of the UNIA is what we've gone over thus far. And tonight we just talked about elocution. But as I said, when you look at it, it emphasizes the importance of health. And if we're not healthy, how can we be good speakers? But Garvey was considered the greatest orator of his time. And he's writing out a specific step-by-step complete lesson on the art of elocution. So we should be intelligent, we should be confident, we should know the foundation of the aims and objectives, and we should be able and willing to speak about it thus far. So with that, I'll open up the floor for a few moments. Anybody have any comments as we move to close? No comments.
Thank you. You're a great teacher. I really enjoy the sessions. I have been here for, I think this is my 2nd or 3rd, and I really enjoy the way you conduct the involvement. You kept me very engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you brought that up. We all, in our respect for Garvey, we try to go straight to that level. And when we talk about Garveyism, that's what everybody wants to do or want to be. But what this course has taught me is we have to be Charles L. James first, so what by that meaning we have to be the best students of Garveyism, and I think that's something we've overlooked in different aspects, but in just trying to do it and get the recognition or whatever for it, we skip that step of what are we really supposed to be doing, and how are we really supposed to be doing it. So again, credit to Charles L. James, Marcus Garvey, and Dr. Tony Martin for giving us and preserving this information for us.
Thank you, President. This is a phenomenal lesson.
Thank you, Chaplain Mitchell. Next lesson, lesson 5 is titled God. But it's an interesting lesson. Don't, look at it, actually. Review elocution. We'll have questions on that next week. And then we will read the lesson titled God for next week.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me in the transition of my sister. The love and support, I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
I am sorry to hear that, brother. Let me know if you need support.
Thank you, Chaplain Mitchell.
Yes. Anything else? Yes. With that, I think, we'll close out. If you would, come off mute and repeat after me. One God.
One God.
One aim.
One
aim.
One destiny.
One
destiny.
Africa.
Africa.
For the Africans.
For
the Africans.
Those at home.
those at home,
and those abroad.
and
those
those
abroad.
abroad.
Race first, family.
Race first.
First.
race first.
Signing off. Yeah, I got it.